I want you to picture this scene for me, Tarnished Warrior. You've just entered the DLC and you're looking for a spicy new weapon. You make your way across the Elac Great Bridge, through the brutal castle exits, and arrive at Twin Moon Rellana, who proceeds to put you into the Wombo Combo blender with her twin blades. And you think, oh my god, her weapons are cool. You must have them. But after defeating her, they're just not quite as good as when she uses them. Well, what if I told you you can use the boss weapons exactly as they use them? What if you could become the boss? How is this possible, you ask? Well, with a mod, of course. That's why, in today's video, I'm gonna be beating Elden Ring's DLC by using the original boss weapons that give me the entire moveset of those bosses who drop them. And I mean the entire moveset. Some of these weapons are insanely cool, and you haven't even seen half of them yet. But let's dilly-dally no longer. And what better way is there to enter the DLC than with Mohg's Sacred Spear? So what is the point of that random scream? Well, it took me a while to figure it out, but this mod really does replicate the movesets as accurately as possible. It turns out you can only smack your opponents with the almighty knee heel once, which makes sense because it's very OP. The scream resets the knee heel count, but it takes insanely long, so it's pretty impractical in a boss fight. You also gotta charge up the knee heel with a Tres, Duo, and Unos, which basically becomes this weapon's buffing routine, so you can use it immediately once you get into the boss fights. But one weapon is certainly not enough, and we've got a whole arsenal of weapons to collect, so let's get straight to it. I thought it would be a pretty spectacular idea to go pick up the Death Knight Twin Axes so that I could give my main girl Rellana a beatdown, taking advantage of her lightning weakness. In theory, this was a great plan, but didn't work out quite as expected, but we'll get to that later. For now, let's go get these Twin Axes, shall we? I immediately realized that pretty much all of these boss weapons have a huge major flaw, and it's that the bosses suck at dodging. You really do take it for granted how strong it is to roll immediately whenever you please. It does make sense because it's pretty easy for you to hit the bosses, so when you become them, you shouldn't be able to dodge like a normal Tarnished. And it does balance out the mod a bit, so that you're not a complete unstoppable steam train. So after a couple of stinky and embarrassing deaths, I figure out that the best strategy for Mohg Spear was to immediately knee heel on entry, impale this buffoon once, and then just spam Mohg's backwards flying attack, because not only was it our best dodging tool, but it did some pretty decent damage at the same time. Not the cleanest, but we'll take it. With my beautiful new twin axes acquired, it was time to seek out those juicy twin blades. But first, how about some sweet, sweet revenge? That one was for my first playthrough. Bitch. Now, I must say, I thought this fight was gonna be easy peasy lemon squeezy, but It was actually difficult lemonades. Yes, 8. Just like with Mohg Spear, the dodge button does not work like it normally does, being very clunky and delayed. Combine this with Rellana's relentless aggression, and this was not the most enjoyable experience. The double lightning spear combo was good long-range damage, but she kept using this annoying-ass instant gap closer and punishing me most grievously. It was even more difficult to get it off in her second phase. So, after some trial and error and much pain and suffering, I noticed that the extended lightning dash actually left a damage trail when you used it through an enemy. At this point, I realized it was basically GG, and I just spammed dodge through her until it was over. Was this a cheesy strategy? Absolutely. Did I care? Hell no. Rellana has got to have one of the most complex and intricately designed movesets ever created, and I wanted those blades real bad. Oh yeah, here we go, baby. I've got to say that this mod is implemented very well. The keybinds work fluidly, and a lot of the combos you can perform actually make sense and are pretty intuitive. A simple example of this are the running light and heavy attacks, which I think suit the inputs perfectly. I won't go into too much detail, and you'll have to try it out for yourself to get a real feel for it. All you have to know is that Rellana's Twin Moons is completely broken. The area of effect is enormous and does ridiculous damage. Not to mention, you go so high up into the air, just like Rellana, that you pretty much can't get hit whilst you're slamming down. Now, of course, at this point, there's only one logical choice of action, and that is to make my way towards the Black Keep, because here, and here alone, were moon and fire ever together.
Those stripped of the grace of gold shall all meet death. In the embrace of Messmer's flame.
Ow? But alas, here we are. The ultimate battle. The blade of Messmer against, well, Messmer. Who shall be victorious? Me, obviously. Won't pretend like I got him first try though, as it took me a while to get used to this moveset. But holy shit, it did not disappoint. Easily the best part about this moveset is that Rellana can actually dodge really well. Thank God. It's almost like the Tarnished dodge, but just a little bit slower, but certainly manageable. The best part about this was that I finally, at long last, have a real battle without any stinky, cheesy strategies. Not that Rellana couldn't cheese them though. You could literally just mash Twin Moons repeatedly and you'd actually be safe considering none of the weapons use your FP points for some reason. So luckily I could always default back to this strategy if there was ever a boss down the line who gave me some trouble. We're done. Anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed this fight. Not only did it feel clean, but Messmer vs Rellana is something we all wanted to see. Not quite a law-accurate battle, as Rellana would never hurt her dear Messmer, but close enough. For now, enjoy the beauty of moon versus fire, but make sure you don't go anywhere, cause we still got a heap of weapons to collect. Now, they don't call him Messmer the Impaler for no reason, so I knew exactly what needed to be done. Okay, but seriously though, impaling every NPC possible on the literal spear of the Impaler has got to be the most satisfying thing I've ever done in this game. Without a shred of a doubt, Messmer has the best grab attack in the game. I mean, just listen to the sound effect on this thing. Holy, that is the meatiest impact I've ever heard. But what I'm most glad about is that the mod creator didn't tone this attack down. Oh no, it does immense damage. Pretty much one-shotting every base game NPC and 2 to 3-shotting all of the DLC ones. Which makes sense. I mean, come on, look at this shit. No one should be surviving that. This may be controversial, but I've always thought that most grab attacks should one-shot you no matter how much vigor you have. They're usually super telegraphed, meaning that you'd probably only get killed by it 1 to 2 times max before you realize how to avoid it every time. Okay, impaling montage over. At least for now. The next weapon I had my eyes on was Devonia's hammer. A giant gigaton hammer seemed like the perfect weapon to fill the void of missing Unga Bunga weapons. Making my way through the beautiful ruins of Rawa, I happened upon Devonia herself, where I learned that Messmer's moveset is so fucking cool. This leaping throwing spear attack is so much fun and is infinitely better than the standard throw of Messmer's spear. Not to mention, Messmer's assault got roided up and feels even meatier and more powerful than usual. Devonia really did stand no chance. Poor girl. Thanks for your hammer though. And you know what they say, a hammer a day keeps the horses away. But seriously, where the fuck is my horse? Looks so strange jumping around like this with nothing beneath me, but it didn't really matter. You'll see soon enough that this centaur horse sleep is stupidly fun and also broken. But let's continue on my weapon collecting rampage for now. I headed on over to the Rao base because that is where the catacombs for the Death Knight's Longhaft axe is located. Along the way, I also picked up the Horned Warrior Greatsword from the scary looking man. And oh boy, this moveset surprised me and was one of the best for sure. Like the Divine Beast Dancing Lion, you get 3 elemental damage options, being lightning, wind, and ice, and your moveset changes depending on which element you currently have active. This weapon was really cool and was a perfect option to take on the Death Knight. Now, my original plan was to go lightning versus lightning and stick to that for the entirety of this fight. But what's the point of that, right? So I ended up switching between all the elements and just face tanking a bunch of attacks. I must admit, the Horned Warrior moveset is far superior to Mohg Spear, and I had a really easy time on this fight once I got used to the moveset. One move in particular was especially effective and didn't even come from any of the elements. If I just kept spamming this repeated 5 combo slam, the Death Knight would just get chain staggered into oblivion and had no chance of fighting back. From him, we picked up our second Death Knight weapon, the Longhaft axe. This was unfortunately the first time that I was disappointed with the mod, as I honestly felt like the standard Longhaft axe moveset was just better. I tried it out against Romina for a while, and after getting pooped on for a bit, I switched up my weapon back to Devonia's hammer to give it some more action. This thing slaps. When using your skill, you go into full-on horse mode and just jump around all over the place. You get an insane amount of hyper armor during this attack, so you cannot be staggered out of it, and not to mention, you take a small amount of damage during the animation if you do happen to get hit. Oh Devonia, you silly horse. Using my sweet hammer, I managed to stomp on the centipede abomination, and before you get all excited, no, the poor blade of the bud is unfortunately not remade in this mod. I only came here so that we can burn down the ceiling tree and travel to Inner Elam. You may recall that I said the impaling montage was over, but that was a lie. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Leda and her allies to the Spear of the Impaler, or as I like to call it, the NPC Destroyer. The NPC Destroyer was the perfect weapon for Leda, making a usually unbearable fight into one that gave me immense satisfaction. But we didn't come to Inner Elam for stinky Leda and her allies. Oh no, it's time for the Big Daddy. Let's go get those curved greatswords, shall we? Now up until this point, I hadn't really been optimizing any of the builds for maximum damage with weapon scalings, talismans, and whatnot. I had just been evenly leveling everything to make sure I could wield all of the weapons. But that all had to change for the Big Daddy. I immediately traveled to Rellana before the fight to respec deeply into dexterity, faith, and intelligence, so that I could be doing maximum damage with twin blades. So, if you're wondering how much damage these weapons do when optimized, take a good look. I had also pre-decided that the only logical weapon option here were Rellana's twin blades, as you need to dodge an inordinate amount during this fight, and any other dodge was not going to cut it, unless I wanted to be slamming my head against the wall for a couple hours. This was by far the most challenging part of the run, as Radahn simply cannot be brute forced and needs to be finessed. I usually do this fight with a light roll and the Talisman of All Crucibles, which wasn't an option here, as the way the movesets work, you get a completely new dodge, so it took me a while to adjust for this fight. On top of that, I thought I would be able to spam Twin Moons if I was ever in trouble, but no. Radahn's swords are just so damn long, he could hit me even while I was in the air, and as soon as I slammed down on the ground, he would just triple slam me into next week. But with enough patience, I was able to take the W in the end, and I'll let you see how the rest of it played out. But remember, we still gotta check out those curved greatswords, so make sure to stick around for that. With my main man, Radahn's curved greatswords, there's only one logical thing that needs to be done. It's time to recreate Prime Radaahn vs Malenia, baby. We finally have a lore-accurate battle on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. Or do we? I believe the true Malenia and Radaahn ended in a stalemate, whereas this battle was complete domination. By this point, I was around level 170 and an absolute unit. I respect fully into strength and intelligence and just went to town on her. Every single attack in Radahn's moveset staggered Malenia unless she was locked to do certain animations. My favorite was the somersaulting running R1 and follow-up that just slammed Malenia into the floor every time. Oh boy, this was fun. The moveset for the greatswords were however locked into only Radahn's phase 1 attacks, which I was not complaining about because I honestly preferred it that way, and so did my FPS. Now this is what a weapon drop from the literal final boss of the game should be like. Absolutely broken and monstrous in every way. Although Radahn's dodge was really bad, I found that it was barely even necessary because for some reason I was able to tank Malenia's blows like they were nothing. It honestly made me wonder if the mod creator upped your defense with Radahn's greatswords, because I just felt like an absolute unit. This would honestly make sense because the real consort Radaahn is a monstrous tank, and by this point I could tell the mod creator was really trying to make you feel like you were the boss as much as possible. Anyway, this brings me towards the end of the video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it, and I highly recommend you go check this mod out. Link in the description below, because there's so much more I didn't even get to showcase due to the sheer amount of reworked weapons. But for now, enjoy the rest of Malenia being pounded. Until next time, guys.